Hello and welcome to this week's show of Gina Gardiner and Friends. My guest today is Dr. Emily Letran. She is the best mum in the world, according to her, although I assume that some of you may actually be up in competition. And she works with people all around high performance leadership. She has an amazing background in business and is very, very practical. So, Dr. Emily Letran, a huge welcome. Thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's absolutely my honor to be on here. Thank you for creating this platform where you can share your expertise and we can all chime in and share our stories and our insights to help people accelerate their growth.
An absolute pleasure. So before we get started on our theme, which is high performance leadership, can you share your story briefly so people have an understanding that you're not just plucking this stuff out of the air, you really know what you're talking about?
Well, thank you so much. You know, my backstory, so I live in the United States and my backstory is I originally came from Vietnam back in the early 80s and came, after the Vietnam War ended and the communists took over, my aunt decided to leave the country. So she left. She was taking her two kids and my older brother, and a couple of guy cousins. And my dad sent me along because I was the oldest uh, oldest girl in the family who could help her taking care of the family. So I came to the U.S., learned English, overcame a lot of challenges, as you know. Whenever you come to a new country and you're an immigrant, a refugee, you start from the bottom.
Yes.
I came and I tell people, I think my luggage was just hope and faith because we didn't have anything,
No.
And throughout that journey, I learned to be very resilient. And it wasn't, sometimes you do things and you don't realize it, right? And
Yeah.
when you look back, you realize, oh, I was like that for, all those years. You learn to be resilient. You learn to be very open-minded. You learn to be humble because you don't know anything and everything you have to relearn the new way of life, the language, even how you speak, ask questions, things like that. And but and I was very blessed because in the US there's a lot of help for people of disadvantaged background. So I got scholarship going to school and I got grants, which is government money. And I was able to finish my professional school as a dentist. And then as I came out, I was working in multiple offices, trying to learn to accelerate learning, how do
Yes.
I run an office?
Yes.
And when I finally had my own office, this was back in 1997. Um, I was always about growth, right? How do I do this faster? It was one of those things that, as you and a lot of people I'm sure know, with the entrepreneur, we always want to grow. Let's do the
Yes.
next thing. Well, while we're trying to figure out how to raise three kids, have a family and actually be home for them. But my idea of growth back then was to have multiple locations. So I actually ran three locations for more than a decade, and throughout that process, learning how to make sure I can manage my time, which I think is very very important. If you're a leader, you got to focus on certain things and make sure you show people, you train people what you're expecting, and communication about what you expect and what they're expected to do. And along that line, learning how you can really make a difference.
Yeah.
So I'm, excuse me, I'm very, very lucky. I'm in dentistry. We almost have a built-in relationship because patients will come back and see us for a checkup, right? Every 6 months, every year or so. So we have that built in. But then, how do you how do you make sure that your customers, your clients, your patients value you, that stay with you and they don't go somewhere else, that become your raving fan? So all of those things are things that I learned along the way. One of my favorite talk is how to keep a patient for 25 years. And I would say it would be the same for other businesses, how to keep a customer for 25 years, because it's not it's not so much going to be your product or your service anymore. I think it's going to be you, right? What you
Absolutely.
represent.
Yeah.
And so because of all of those, I decided that, I'm going to be sharing some of that knowledge. I like to help people accelerate their journey instead of spending many years like me, going through and learning from mistakes and going through a lot of seminars. And that's why I do the high performance coaching and the business strategy alongside of running currently 2 dental practices in Southern California.
Now, there's a lot in there, and I think I'd like to sort of to unpick that, if I may, for our listeners. I'm very familiar with it's not the challenge that defines us, but what we do with it. And
Right.
although our challenges through life have been very different, I do think that the resilience and the gift of those challenges makes us the person we are. And
Yes.
I know that there are many people at the moment who are going through challenges and who are finding it overwhelming. And I'd just like to say to you, hang on in there, recognize that tomorrow is a new day and a new day is a new start. And that as you go through it, you will gather the strength and the resilience to deal with that. And that will hold you in good stead moving forward. I've had a bit of an experience in terms of people coming to a new country. I'm hosting a Ukrainian lady under the Host for Ukraine scheme in the UK. 56, didn't speak any English when she arrived, and is living with me. And seeing how challenging it is to get to grips with the systems within the country, let alone the language, that everything is very different. I can only admire you and your aunt, coming across to a new country and taking on board the opportunities that were available, grabbing those by the throat and actually making the most of them. And I think there's a really big lesson here. If you're listening to this, whether you are somebody who's come new to the country or not, there are opportunities if you're open to them. But you've got to then make those opportunities work for you. And you've obviously put the work in. So, Emily, what do you think makes a high performance leader?
Well, the very first thing I believe make a high performance leader is the integrity.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The the ability to actually hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Because when you're leading people, what's very common is we're the boss, we're the leader, and there's nobody watching us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we got to hold ourselves accountable first. If we ask our team, I need you to do X, well, we need to make sure that we actually are also doing X, whatever we're asking of our team. So holding yourself accountable, having your own integrity, um, that's one of the most important things to be a leader.
I
Um, I,
talk about taking radical responsibility for everything you think, say, and do. And although we're using
yes,
different language, they're very much the same. If you're going to model the behaviors you want from others, then you can hold them to account in a very different way, can't you?
yes, absolutely. And when you think you're the leader, because not everybody is a leader, everybody could be a boss. You own a business, but are you actually a leader, right?
Great.
And a lot of time, yeah, and that part of that integrity and accountability that you hold to yourself is saying, you know what, I am the model, exactly what you just said. And when you think about it, when you're the model, you know that all eyes are on you. So you're gonna walk a little straighter, you're gonna hold your head a little bit higher. You're gonna do what you say you're gonna do because people are watching you. And I tell people the very easy analogy is you as a parent, right?
Yes.
Your kids are watching you. So it's funny, but with high performance leadership, we want the people to live life a certain way, right? It's not, oh, I'm going to show up to work and I'm going to be the leader. And then I'll go to an event and I'll just do whatever, right? And then when I'm home, I'm going to be the parent. No, the same thing that you want to be the parent, that you're going to hold yourself accountable to your kids, right? Because obviously,
Yes.
when you promise your kids something, you better do it. And because your kids are watching you. The same thing when you show up to work as a boss, right?
Yes.
You do the same thing when you show up to an event. You know that you're representing a certain brand. Could be just yourself, but it's a brand, it's a business, it's an idea. and you do the same thing. And with high performance, we're talking about all of those things just being yourself. So changing yourself, or people like to say transforming yourself, to that higher self all the time,
Yeah.
which take a lot of practice, or most of the time, 98% of the time, right? That's what make a high performance leader. We don't want you to, okay, I'm going to be a speaker today, and this is how I'm going to present myself. And with, a group of other people, I'm just going to be whatever. We want that consistency in the leader, to always show up with that integrity, right? Or with us, a lot of time it's raising the ambition. Whatever you're doing, what's the next level for you? If you're a parent, what's that next level as a parent? If you're a spouse, what's that next level? If you're a boss, what is that next level? If you're a speaker, what is the next level for you? And think about whatever role that you have, what would be the next level? What is your best self? And strive to achieve that. Is I don't care if you're looking, you know, for me, let's say a dentist, I don't care about what the dentist across the street or down the road is doing. I don't need to compare with that person. I'm comparing, compete with that person. I'm competing with myself. If I can show up today and do better than last week, I think that's good. And then tomorrow, I want to do better than today. And so it's that self-driven ambition to be better the next day. All of that makes up a high performance leader.
Again, I absolutely agree with you. One of the things that strikes me is how many people spend so much time in competition with other people. You know, I've got to worry about that person down the road, whatever the business is.
Right.
When we're being truly authentic and being our best selves and striving for consistent development, then the relationship you have with yourself is going to shine through, and people will recognize your authenticity, your integrity. And it's that relationship with yourself which is reflected in the relationship you have with other people. And so for me, the evolution of your best self is that the foundation that you create today is built on to become the best self of tomorrow and next week and the following month and so on. And it's an ongoing evolution. It never finishes, does it?
Exactly. And I wanna add a little bit to what you had said previously, about growing and about doing everything. One of the most important thing I learned is to be a high performance leader is to make sure you have the support, right? And
Absolutely.
ask for the support. If you are running out of time, if you're tired, ask people to help you. And part of that is having that vulnerability and having the courage to ask, right? Because sometimes we feel, oh, I'm the boss. People think I got it all together, even though you're duct tape together, right? That you're not going to ask for help. But no, ask for help. Because if people know that you're always striving, they know that you're always putting in 100%. When you ask for help, they know that you truly need the help. You're not a lazy person,
No.
right? Yeah. And the consistency is, as a business, you strive for that consistency. So whenever you mess up, you miss something, the customers, the clients, it's easier for them to forgive you. And unless you mess up really bad. But I mean, if they come to your business and they always get level A service, and one day they come in and it's level C, they know that, oh, something must have happened today, right? So having that consistency only also allows you to sometimes make mistakes, sometimes things don't go well, and you know that, again, talking about support, your customer, your clients, they will support you because they know that's not, oh, that's not Gina. Gina is better than that. Today something must have happened. you
Well,
know,
again,
and
there's so much to unpick there, isn't there? That
yes,
ultimately, I think there's a huge difference between being vulnerable and being a victim. And being vulnerable and saying, I need some help, I think is very different to expecting other people to consistently do things for you because I can't manage. Um,
right,
and, I think for many people out there that they fear that they will be seen to be in victim mode rather than vulnerable. And I think it's very much about the intention in your head. It's very much about recognizing that no man or woman is an island and that we need others. And I would say to anyone, the best thing to do is to get yourself a mentor or a coach or someone who's going to support and challenge you, because then those habits which are hidden in plain sight get dealt with. Somebody can call you out and say, Emily, you're better than this. This isn't your best.
Right, right,
And
right.
it's coming from the right place. And the other thing, I think you're absolutely right, that if your customers, your staff know that what you are always striving for is excellence, that when something goes wrong, I think the first thing is to hold your hand up and say, look, I'm really sorry, this isn't our best.
Right.
And not to make excuses, but actually we're going to learn from that, to ensure that that problem doesn't happen again. And I think how we put things right in business often does a lot more for our reputation than almost anything, because people will recognize that you're human, but also that you're striving to do the very best that you can.
Yes, absolutely. And I tell you, I think one of the best compliment I get, well, for when I'm doing my dentistry, besides my coaching, right? My dentistry, I think the two best compliments, one, the patient is sleeping in the chair because they feel so comfortable and you're over there, you're working. And I don't know how people sleep in the dental chair, but
Neither do I.
yeah, but that's one of the best compliments. The second one is I have people who look at me and say, I can really tell that you like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
I
think
think
that makes
that
a difference.
yes, and I think that is such positive feedback because sometimes we go through the day, it's second nature, it's going to be 30 years next year that I've been doing dentistry. I don't really think about a whole lot, of the
No.
dentistry. You just come in and you just do the work. But when people pick that up from how you talk, right? From
Yeah.
your energy, that you truly care, and it reminds you that such a blessing to be able to do the work, and you're humble because people can recognize that and giving you that compliment. Because I'm sure you can also say sometimes you go to a mall and you go, I don't know why that person's behind that desk, and that person suddenly does not want to do that person does not want to do this work.
No.
And yeah, and so it's such a blessing that we can enjoy our work,
Yeah.
that people recognize that, because that's one of the main things that you can use, right, to build your business, which is really, bringing in that positive energy, that caring effect, that you develop over the years, but making sure that it's shining through, that you communicate that with your customers or clients.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would say to you as a listener, and one of the things that I strive to do, we're very good as a society at complaining. But if I get good service from somebody in a store or a restaurant, I will often ask to see the manager. And you can see the people get very concerned. They're going to ask for the manager, what have I done wrong? And when the manager comes in, to be able to say, this particular person has gone out of their way to be really, really helpful, and I so appreciate that. And you watch their faces light up because they're so used to people complaining and not actually saying thank you and well done. So Emily, where can people find you?
Yes, well, I'm very active on social media, where people can certainly go on social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and find me. It's Emily Letran. Or they can go to my website. It's dremilyletran.com. So it's DREMILYLETRAN.com. And I have a challenge just like you. I have a high performance quiz on my website. And
Okay.
I would love it if somebody go on there, just take the quiz. It actually has 10 points. It's not about money. It's not about status. It's about what we just discussed, the
Yes.
whole self. And take the quiz and see where you are. See if you're happy with the score that you give yourself. And so you can see the different aspects that we look at as a high performer. Because I think that the very first thing, you need to be able to evaluate yourself, like we said earlier, having that integrity, right? You got to know where you are before you go for the next level, or before you go and give other people feedback. Well, where are you? And it's something that a high performer will always do. They look at themselves first, right? You look
Great.
at yourself first, You
Yes.
give yourself that feedback. You know that you're supposed to be at a 10 and today you were a 5 for whatever reason. And tomorrow, can you show up and get back to your 9 or 10 level, or are we going to just kind of do 5, right? And those are, I think it's very important to understand ourselves first. And that's what we really should be striving for when you have the free time, instead of being on Netflix or whatever, spending your time feeding your mind with stuff. Take the time, read a self-development book, understand yourself better, because then you can be a better mom, a better dad, better son or daughter, a better boss, right? A better friend, even. And just be that, and be continuously on that self-improvement level.
I think that's great advice. You are the common denominator you take into your life every moment of every day. It makes absolute sense to be the leader in your own life. And to do that, you need to know yourself. It's been a great show. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining me. I'd like to say to you as listeners, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of the show? Are there any particular themes you'd like us to cover? Contact me at Gina, Gina, at genuinely-u.com, and you is Y-O-U. So genuinely-u.com. Love to know your thoughts and to know more about you. So please do engage. That's Gina at genuinely-u.com. You can find all my books on Amazon, and you will find me on YouTube. Again, Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner. Emily, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. And thank you very much for listening. I'd like to say goodbye, take care, and join us on the next show. Bye-bye now.